Welcome in to our Cracked Rackets pre-match coverage of the 2021 Wimbledon Gentlemen's Singles Final. Coming up at 9 a.m. Eastern Time today, number one seed Novak Djokovic continues his quest for an undefeated season at the Grand Slams. He's won the 2021 Australian Open, knocked off Rafael Nadal on his home turf of Paris. Now he looks to earn another Wimbledon title to his resume, but perhaps most importantly, assert himself at the top of the conversation of the greatest all-time players in men's tennis history. He can do so today by earning his 20th major singles title. Of course, he's got his toughest match of the tournament to date in the finals. He's going to be taking on a first-time major finalist, your number 7 seed in the event, one of the ascending talents in the men's game in young Italian Matteo Beretini. A fantastic match for all of us fans to enjoy as we wrap up the year's third Grand Slam. And of course, joining me on today's show to break down today's gentlemen's singles final, to talk about what we saw in yesterday's ladies singles final as well. You know him as our Do Everything here at Cracked Rackets, the forefather of the forehand slice, only undefeated high school coach in Missouri State history, and of course, one of the rising talents in the college tennis coaching ranks. It's my friend James Foster Mcdonald. Jamie, welcome back to the show. Crazy to think it's the final day of Wimbledon, but you excited for today's action?
Yeah, honestly, just looking forward to a good match. You got to hope, look, regardless of who wins, you just got to hope that it's entertaining. And you hope that it's not just a Djokovic stomping, 2-2-2 and we get out of there, because that's no fun for anybody. So hoping for a fun one that we can look back on fondly, regardless of who wins.
Absolutely agree with you. And I have to give a quick shout out before we begin our conversation to Daniel Leitner over at Iowa Women's Tennis. Hooked me up with the gear that you see I am rocking today. And I say it all the time to all the college coaches. I am very easily bribed. And some of them have followed through on that. So the least I can do, rep their squads here on our stream. So shout out to Daniel Leitner. Shout out to the Hawkeyes. Is it Go Hawks? That doesn't sound right. Go Hawkeyes. We'll get there at some point. Go. Yeah, exactly. But shout out to Iowa. Anyways, you bring up, hopefully it's not a Novak Djokovic steamroll, Jamie. That's where we should start our preview here today. The number one seed has dropped just one set, and that set was the very first set of his tournament. Loses it to young British male Jack Draper, lefty, big serve, loses that set 6-4. Hey, great shot to me there. Hasn't lost a set since. You look at the victory he's piled up on his way to the final. He beats Draper. He beats Kevin Anderson in straight sets. Perhaps in 2017, that win a little bit more impressive than it is now. But for him, straight sets over Denis Kudla. You could argue that third set, one of the two sets he's really had to play good tennis in here this tournament. He then beats Christian Garin, Marton Fucsovics in straight sets. Was an interesting semifinal for him, though, Jamie. I think we would both agree it was not Novak Djokovic's best tennis, but certainly he had to extend maximum effort in that match as Denis Shapovalov pushed him thoroughly in a 7-6, 7-5 win for Djokovic. Now, it's worth noting Shapovalov served for that first set, 5-4, 30-all, misses a wide open forehand a little bit long, and that felt like a turning point in the match. But Shapovalov's aggression, his power tennis, his athleticism did give Djokovic some issues. You think Berrettini can do something similar today, or you think the number one seed's going to raise his level here in his 30th Grand Slam final?
Yeah, I think some of both. I think what Shapovalov did a great job of was just creating the opportunities. Unfortunately, just executing on those big points. And look, we've seen this for forever, but especially the last decade, how many times have we seen Djokovic pretty much get outplayed, but hang in there. And as soon as you don't capitalize on an opportunity, it's gone, right? Nadal did the same thing for a very long time. And even before that, sort of when he was in the prime, Federer, of course. And so it's difficult. I think Berrettini can do a lot of the same things in terms of power. He can impose his game on Djokovic. He has that quality from the baseline and especially with the serve. So I like that from him. And look, if he's able to create the same opportunities as Shapovalov was, I think it will be a tight match. The problem with Shapovalov, like I said, is just he blew some of those points, right? Those opportunities that he created for himself. He just didn't do a good job of finishing. So I think, if Berrettini can get to a spot where he's doing the same things Shapovalov did, he will have better luck. He maybe even steal a set because I trust him to execute in that big moment a little bit more. But game style wise, yeah, I mean, if Berrettini's watching the tape, watching the film, I'm sure he was watching that Shapovalov match. He's got to be pretty happy, right? He's got to be pretty happy with that and say, hey, there are things that I can do and not be too intimidated by the moment, hopefully.
To your point, I think Berrettini can execute the Shapovalov game plan better than Shapovalov did. Like, I agree with you. I think the serve for Shapovalov a little bit more reliable. The forehand for Berrettini a little bit more reliable than Shapovalov's. The forehand for Berrettini a little bit more reliable than Shapovalov. And, we'll get to the Berrettini side of the equation in a moment. The thing is why you have to play so aggressive against this iteration of Novak Djokovic. Jamie, he's 279 for 327 on first serve points won. So let's be clear here. Over the course of 6 matches, he's lost 48 points on his first serve. He's losing 8 first serve points per match. That's an 85% conversion rate. That's freaking ridiculous. How do you beat Novak Djokovic if he's winning 85% of his first serve? And according to our friends at Tennis Abstract, his break percentage is at 36% here in 2021. That's the second highest number of his career, Jamie, second only to his breakout 2011 season where he won the first 38 matches of the year. Mathematically, this Novak Djokovic is as good as he's ever been. And while the eye test would suggest that he's not the 2011, that he's not the 2015 Novak Djokovic, he hit that peak at the French Open. And I think the scariest part about this Wimbledon run is, if we're being honest with ourselves, he hasn't had to hit that peak in this tournament. And yet, you watch the match in particular, his matches this week, the third set against Denis Kudla. When he needed to find his best level, as only Novak Djokovic can do, he's Teflon Djokovic. He finds it. He escapes with that third set. He's off the court. Ditto in that Shapovalov match. He needed one mistake, one creak of an opening, and he runs through that. Shapovalov misses that 30-all approach shot. It's now 30-40. And even though Shapovalov got that game back to deuce, you could just feel the break was coming for Novak Djokovic. So he's executing well in the clutch moments. He's taking advantage whenever he makes a first serve. And he's still Novak freaking Djokovic on the return. And just, again, this is the man who invented sliding on a grass court. No one thought it was possible. I still think he's going to tear his groin every time he does it. And yet, outer thirds, his ability to go down the line, his ability to be decisive, his ability to take away what you do best, absorb your pace and redirect it. It's a joke. I mean, it's not a joke, I suppose. It's a Djokovic. And you look for him now over the last 51 weeks, again, just quietly, Jamie, 56-8. Since the tour resumed in August. And you look for him now, as mentioned, he's won both Grand Slams here this season. He's 10-4 against top 10 opponents here over these last 52 weeks. He's your guy to I just think sometimes it's important to contextualize the fact all of these things. It's the Novak Djokovic we've come to expect. He's 40 years old, Jamie. Nadal's bald. Federer's diminishing. Murray has fake hips. Djokovic is the same, I almost swore there, whatever voodoo nonsense he's working, apparently it works. Because this guy is just, it's only on the margins that he's diminished at all. And for him to still be playing this well at 34, it's insane.
Yeah, and I think, look, you mentioned the physicality specifically of his 2011 breakout when he went on that crazy win. I think it was 41 matches he ended up getting together before he lost. And then, of course, one of our favorite matches where he lost to Fed there at the French. But anyway, the physicality, sure, maybe that has dropped a tiny bit, but he's done such a good job of maintaining that. And what he is maybe lost in that, he's gained in experience, and he knows the confidence with which he walks on the court. He knows he can get out of any situation. 2 sets to love down doesn't really matter. He can still think, I'm going to win this. And then he goes out and does that. So I think part of that too is intimidating to whoever is across the net, right? Because they know that they have not closed out Djokovic until it is truly over, right? They watched Tsitsipas go up and have a great lead against him in the final of a major. Djokovic, calm, cool, got it done. And so there's definitely some intimidation with that when you walk on the court against Djokovic, a guy who, even if you're in a great position and feel like you're doing well, feel like you're putting yourself in spots, look at Denis Shapovalov. ends up losing in straight sets, right? And so he doesn't have much to show for that really hard fought match. So it's difficult there. That's a mental thing. I'm hoping that Berrettini is mature enough and ready for the moment. You know, the last thing you want to see is kind of going out there and starting off like Pliskova started off yesterday. That I don't think anybody wants to see something like that. So again, just hoping that the level of the match is really at that highest peak, that high spot. But man, yeah, to answer your question or just general thoughts on Djokovic, yeah, he's just been phenomenal. And this is what we expected, right? Yeah, he had a solid draw. You know, you got to think he's really happy with that if you're looking through his matches at Wimbledon this year. But then again, I don't know if it would have mattered if he had a tough draw, because I think he still would have found a way to win those matches and get to this final where we almost inevitably are right now.
Yeah, there have been 12 Grand Slams since the 2018 Wimbledon. Djokovic has made the final of 9 of them. He's won the title in 8 of them. Jamie, 19 and 10 in Grand Slam finals. Can you name the 4 players who have beaten him?
In Grand Slam finals?
Yeah.
Well, we've got Wawrinka, my boy.
Correct.
How do you say there are 4?
4.
And then Nadal, Fed.
Correct.
And your boy Murray.
That is literally, that's how good you have to beat Novak Djokovic in a Grand Slam final is what I'm trying to say. Is you either have to be a peaking stan, as he was US Open, Roland Garros. We all remember those matches. You either have to be Rafa, you have to be Federer, or you have to be the prime version of Andy Murray. Like, and those are, if not the 4 other best players in men's tennis history, the 4 other best players of this era. Like, those are the only people who have competed with Novak Djokovic in a Grand Slam final. So certainly there's a reason why DraftKings has him as the minus 550 favorite entering today's match. And, you know, on the flip side, Berrettini, Djokovic down to minus 500, some late money on Berrettini plus 375. Now, again, that's still on the margins, but look, if Matteo Beretini is going to pull off today's upset, it starts with the serve for him. And it's a stat I've mentioned on every podcast where we've discussed him this week here at Cracked Rackets. There are 3 players right now on the ATP Tour who hold serve over 90% of the time. Milos Raonic, John Isner, and Matteo Berrettini at 90.3%. That hold percentage, the number, manifests itself when you see him play. And again, in tennis, the numbers are meant to accentuate what you're seeing, because numbers do not tell the entire story in this sport more than perhaps any other sport. And yet, when I tell you that's the category Berrettini's been in as a server, I don't think that surprises anyone, because you see that first serve and he's got easy 130 pace and he can hit it out wide on the on the deuce side, and he can hit it flat out wide on the ad side. Every spot in the books he can hit. He can jam your body with pace as well. And then, you know, even if you do get your racket on that ball, his footwork, his efficiency in finding first forehands, it's elite. Matteo Berrettini has an elite skill now, and his ability to hold serve transcends surface. He's, I believe, 26-7 now in his career. Maybe it's 27-6 on grass courts, and he's won multiple titles on the surface. He won Queen's Club in the build-up to this year's Wimbledon. He won a title in 2019 on the grass courts as well. He's, you know, number 4 right now in 2021 specific ELO rating, number 7 in overall ELO rating, Jamie. Even with the backhand and how slice heavy it is, I think we all would agree that side has gotten better over the past couple of seasons. Given that, you know, Djokovic beat Berrettini 4 sets, French Open semifinal, but it still felt like in that match, Berrettini was able to play on his terms. And that's the biggest thing for me coming into this one. When you're playing Novak Djokovic, it's really stupid to say, but like the way you beat him is to hit through him. And I know that's nuts. And if we could quack out, I would say it's effing nuts to say that's the game plan. But like, what makes it so difficult is like, you're not going to grind him down. Like, unless you're prime Rafa, prime Murray. And those are 2 players, the only 2 players in tennis history, maybe current version of Medvedev, who have hit that sort of peak of physicality that Djokovic hit. Those are the only 2. They were able to grind him down. Other than that, I do think you have to be a Stan. You have to be a Federer who's just going for your shots, playing on your terms. And if you miss and you lose, so be it. You're probably going to lose to Djokovic anyways, but at least you're going down swinging. You're going down on your terms. Berrettini's got the firepower, and he does, I think, have the efficiency of execution to, if he's playing his best tennis, stick around with Djokovic, hold on his terms, and keep this match close, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think the unfortunate possibility, Berrettini knows that he has to do this. So, you hope that he doesn't go out there and just start spraying from the ground, because that's when things could start to spiral, right? You have a bad, miss off the first ball because Djokovic is going to get more returns in play than you expect. Always, you find yourself down love 30 in a service game. Okay, mentally, where are you at, right? Regardless of how good that serve has been across the other tournaments, even in this tournament, where are you at? Because you're in a major final playing against Djokovic in a pressure moment on your serve. Djokovic, on the other hand, you mentioned it, been there a million times, 30th major final. It's insane, right? And so to me, that's really going to be the big task is, okay, Berrettini, you're down love 30, 15-30 in this service game. Is that big serve still going to be popping? Are we still going to see the confidence in that forehand? Are we going to be able to execute when you get the ball in the middle of the court and you can hit that inside out, right? So it's going to be a tough task for Matteo Beretini, but like you said, yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the option of trying to grind him down from the baseline. Now, the slice backhand, I think, can actually help him a little bit, for a couple of reasons. One, it can neutralize things and give him time to run around and hit the big forehand. I like that. I like the slice into the Djokovic backhand a lot of the times, because if you can get it a little shorter, get Djokovic off the baseline, maybe he slices instead. And obviously, anytime you're getting Djokovic to slice and hit it instead of hit his two-hander, you're probably doing something right. Maybe you can set something else up for the rest of that point. But yeah, it's just Berrettini. You got to play your game. You got to play big, and you got to trust it, right? And it's not going to be perfect, right? You're going to have misses. And as long as those don't start to, add up too quickly or potentially happen in quick succession and give Djokovic breaks real quickly, first set, second set, that sort of thing. It's just going to be, can Berrettini withstand this, and mentally, can he hang in there?
40-11 in his last 52 weeks, 18-8 against the top 50, 6-5 against the top 20, 1-4 against the top 10. But he's one of four players. It's Djokovic, Berrettini, Medvedev, Zverev to make the fourth round of every slam this season. You look for him again, 27-6 in his career on grass courts. I agree with you. I think the slice for him, it's best accentuated on this surface, right? The way it stays low, the way it cuts through the court. He hit on the run slice passing shots, Jamie. We talked about this on the podcast, but the forefather of the forehand slice, I assume you approve his ability to hit that ball in the outer thirds. And then his ability to swing through the two-hander has gotten better. He had a couple of just, because early on in that match, in the semifinal, Hurkacz's tested that backhand. And particularly in that game where he broke first, there's a backhand down the line passing shot he hits where he swings through the ball and it catches Hurkacz off guard. And he can do that. At the same time, Djokovic being the Djokovic that he is, I think we all agree Djokovic will play with his food a little bit before he ends up eating the meal, right? He's someone who doesn't mind playing those 15, 20 ball rallies, even when perhaps he could have put the shot away earlier. The problem when you do that against Berrettini, the problem if he baits you into playing sliced patterns with him on the backhand side, is he is both aggressive enough and efficient enough with his footwork that he's running around that ball and hitting a forehand. And all of a sudden, a point at neutral goes to a point on Berrettini's terms. And I do think that's a quality that you need to have against Novak Djokovic. And again, as good as the serve is out wide, as good as the serve is down the tee, I'm curious what you think of this play. Body serves today for Matteo Beretini. That's what I'm watching for. Body serves to guarantee first forehands, because Novak Djokovic, if he gets a clean strike on the return, the ball's going where he wants it to go. And that's why I think that body serve today for him is so important, because just 130 into the body, it's hard to do anything with it.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. There's a lot of reasons that could be a good play for him. I think, especially, on the deuce side, there's probably going to be some times he still gets burned by it, where he's trying to go big up the tee. Djokovic gets a good read on it, cracks a backhand. I mean, we've seen that forever. So I think there are going to be times where Berrettini is going to have to switch up the spots on him. He can't go body every time, or else Djokovic, being such a good returner, will get in that rhythm and start eating it up a little bit. But yeah, if he's able to switch things up and avoid the true dangerous spots on the serve, I think he can hold a lot throughout this match, and he's going to need to, right? He's not the proficient sort of I don't know. It's tough to say, right? It's really tough to say. For me, with Berrettini, like you said at the very top of this, it starts with the serve. That's got to be his focus, and hopefully that doesn't put so much pressure on him, because he's not an idiot. He knows that that's where it starts in this match too. He knows that he's not going to be able to break as much as Djokovic does. That's just the way they're wired. He knows that he isn't that player, but he knows that he has the bigger serve. He has the big weapons in this match. And so if it's an empowering confidence thing, I think he's in a really good spot. But that can also weigh on you, right? The pressure of feeling like you have to hold over and over and over, especially when you're playing such a good returner, and just, I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very tough for Matteo Berrettini. But I think mentally, if he can use it as a confidence thing, knowing that he has the big weapons on that, on that surface, it's good, right? And you mentioned the backhand, especially. We were talking about this off mic yesterday with Del Potro, right? When Del Potro was coming back, how many times did we see people try to pin that backhand? Because for a long time, after the wrist surgeries and the lack of confidence, he was just slicing things back. But then when you can switch up the pattern and he has the chance, it almost threw people off guard when he was able to hit the two-hander. And Berrettini's, a bit faster than Del Potro as well. He's able to get around and rip that forehand too. So I think there are some things that Berrettini can absolutely do in this, maybe have some great patterns against Djokovic, whether it's once he gets to a neutral point or right off the huge serve. But regardless, it's going to take, top tier execution.
No, a post-surgery Delpo is a great comparison for Berrettini, because while Berrettini maintains Delpo's pre-surgery athleticism, his ability to move into the outer thirds, that powerful first step, that ability to find forehands, post-injury Delpo slices a lot of backhands. And yeah, we did last night. We were talking because we both watched that 2016 Olympic first round match where Delpo knocks off Djokovic. And, are there things Berrettini could do watching that against Djokovic to have success tomorrow? Why it's not the cleanest comparison. I think Berrettini's got a better serve, certainly more consistent, more reliable. The pace on the second serve as well, a little bit better than post-surgery Delpo's was. I still think post-surgery Delpo's two-handed backhand, and in that Olympic first-round match, he was willing to swing through that two-handed backhand because he wanted to get the victory so badly, and perhaps it hurt him later on. But I think that two-handed backhand for Delpo is a little bit more dynamic than Berrettini's. At the same time, I also think, again, it was the fact that Delpo's just a little bit more dynamic for the baseline. I mean, he hits these on-the-run cross-court forehands that while Berrettini's got the firepower to pull off, I just don't think he's got the control. Like Delpo, it's like, oh, you gave me a forehand? All right, I'm ending this point now. And I may miss, but I'm ending the point now. And the thing about Berrettini is, while he may not have the firepower and the precision of Delpo on that forehand side, that mindset of it's time for me to end the point now, Berrettini does have that. And I do think we see that translate into today's match again as well. And so, again, with all of that in mind, some fun props for you, Jamie, before we get to our predictions, before we talk a hair about Ashley Barty's performance yesterday. You tell me if you like this Ace of the Day selection. If you wanted to hear the full Aces of the Day, GSP Ace of the Day, Great Shot podcast feed at crackedrackets.com. First ace of the match. Both players minus 120. Now, you may just say it comes down to who serves first, but I like Berrettini here. First ace to Berrettini, minus 120, half a unit to win 0.41. You a fan of that one or no? Ace percentage for him, 13.4%, highest of his career, second on the ATP Tour this year.
Yeah, you got to think there's an edge for Berrettini there.
Averaging 17 aces per match, by the way. If you take out Djokovic's first match against Jack Draper, where he had 25 but come on, that's Jack Draper. He's averaging about 9 per match.
Yeah, I mean, you got to think Berrettini rifles one in the first service game. It's just a matter of who serves first. Yeah, I don't hate that one. I
think that's my favorite prop. I think when you're nervous in a slam final, you're going to try to hit serves 170 miles per hour.
He's going after first serves in the first service game. Yeah.
I'd even go after the second serve, because you look at his numbers in his career and he's 0-2 against Djokovic. He won 44% and 26% of his second serve points. At a certain point, don't you just say F it? Like, I'm done with the second serve. I'm just going to blast first. And I make 67%. Yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes you say that's just a better strategy against Novak Djokovic, but I also just like Berrettini's length. I feel like he gets his racket on the Djokovic serve. Like, I'm just like, just get a racket on it. That's all I need from you. Just one racket. But so I'm going with that. That was one of my aces of the day because I'm trying to hit that 60% win threshold. We talked about this before. Berrettini -6.5 aces for the match over Djokovic. Now they've played twice. The first time they were even on an indoor hard court on the clay courts of the French Open, Berrettini was +1. Again, he's averaging about 17 for the tournament. You take out that first round match for Djokovic, he's at about 9. It's a first slam final. 6.5 feels high. At the same time, I want to have some money spread out in case Berrettini does well. A pathway for Berrettini having success in this match and keeping it close involves him serving well. And so like this would be the manifestation of that. This is the bet on Berrettini, -6.5 aces, -125. What do you think?
Yeah, this one's a little dicier to me, especially because we know Djokovic can pull that out. I mean, that first round, yeah, again, he's playing a different player.
About a guy who gets his racket on everything.
Right, exactly. Yeah, Djokovic, even if you get a free point, it might not feel that way. It might not even look that way because he's gonna get a racket on that ball. Yeah. So yeah, that one's tougher for me. I like where your head's at, though. You want to keep that option open and a little bit of the hope alive for Matteo. But yeah,
if I'm going to bet on him, it's going to be on his serve. Like that's my thinking here.
No, that makes sense.
Another interesting one. Berrettini wins the first set. Djokovic wins the match +335. I think that one's interesting because what if they just go to a breaker and like Shapo had set points or should have had set points. Draper won the first set. Nadal won the first set. Tsitsipas won the first set. Musetti won the first set. Sometimes it takes Djokovic a hot second to get locked into these matches. So that one was interesting to me. And +335, we've got a lot of past action on Djokovic. I was debating just hedging through that.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always taking a risk when you go for something kind of specific in the scoreline. But again, it's a possibility, sure. Like, can I logically say, yeah, I could see that happening? Absolutely. But, unfortunately, there's other possibilities as well, right? Yeah. There's a possibility that Djokovic goes out there and rolls. There's a possibility that Berrettini gets up 2 sets and still loses. There's so that's where it always gets a little tough going after the exact sets.
Plus, past 2 days, Vardy won first set and won, and Berrettini against Hurkacz, and I had it both times, so I'm not playing with that one anymore.
Yeah, I was about to say you're pushing it.
No, exactly. But so, all right, Djokovic -500, Berrettini -275, the over 3.5 sets -125. That's an interesting one as well. But just all of that thinking aside, everything we've talked about today, Jamie, give me your pick. Who is emerging as the 2021 Wimbledon Gentlemen's Singles Champion? What does the match look like?
Yeah, I hope I'm not right, but I feel like this just kind of becomes the Djokovic show. He goes out there. Berrettini has a couple tough service games. Djokovic is able to get the breaks in pretty much every set, and it's straight sets for Djokovic. I hope I'm wrong. I really do hope I'm wrong.
But Djokovic is going to get aced first. Let's be clear.
Of course. How did I not mention that? Yeah. No, I hope it's not true. I mean, I remember, what was it, when we were all in Indy, we were really hoping for Del Potro to make that an unreal match in 2018 at the US Open. We thought about it, thought it could happen, all this stuff. And then Djokovic just goes out there, So again, preface this, I hope I am wrong, but I mean, Djokovic in straights just feels like the most likely outcome at this point.
We padlocked our front door here at CRHQ just to prepare for the anarchy, the purge that's coming. Djokovic fans versus the world. Should he get that 20th Grand Slam title? I think one of our favorite lines on our Cracked Rackets podcast, Jamie, is shout out to ourselves, because there's a lot of missed picks, but every so often you get one right. And you could just tell Berrettini was the second best player in the world on a grass court coming into this event. The serve, the aggression, it just works on this surface. And I think he is going to get to at least one tiebreaker. Like, I do think we see some close set scores. But Djokovic is on a mission. Like, in the scariest place to be in the tennis world is between Novak Djokovic and a goal he'd like to accomplish. And like, again, when we look back at history, God willing, there will be a book written about Novak Djokovic's pursuit, all the day-to-day grind, everything that took, or I guess book that shows my age. There'll be a documentary on Netflix about his run here in 2021. and that hopefully he captures all 4 Grand Slams, captures the gold medal in singles, because the chase of history is why we watch sports, and to see these people accomplish things that have never been accomplished before. And, we see now Djokovic and Beretini walking out on court. So we'll begin to wrap our show here. But, again, as close as I think Berettini is going to pull it out, like Djokovic's biggest strength throughout his career has been getting returns in play, taking away your first serve, getting the point back to neutral. And it took a flawless Del Potro performance to beat Djokovic at that Olympics. And I don't know if Berettini has that level in him to play that well, to do what it takes to beat a Novak Djokovic in a 3 out of 5 set level. I need to see it to believe it. And so for those reasons, I am going to take Novak Djokovic. Now, I'm going to take Berettini to win the first set, because sometimes Djokovic comes out sluggish. And even if he's the thing is, it's first slam number 20. So what? Scratch that. 7-6, 7-6, 6-4. Djokovic ends up taking this match in straight sets. I do think it's going to be close, though. I think Berettini comes out swinging. I think it's one thing when you're playing in your first slam final and it's not against Novak Djokovic. It's another thing when you don't have that pressure because you are playing Djokovic. And it's like, well, I'm probably going to lose anyways, so I can go down swinging, have some freedom. And I think a free swinging Berettini is a dangerous opponent, but give me Djokovic in the end. Straight set winner, Grand Slam number 20. Let the argument begin. Now, quickly, before we go, because I did promise this, Jamie, and I do want to just hear your thoughts independently. Ashley Barty yesterday, 2nd Grand Slam title. We saw her win the first 14 points of her match against Karolina Pliskova. A, do you anticipate something like that happening in this one? But B, you look at the company she's joined now. 4 titles and 5 finals here this year, 10 total events played. So she's winning 40% of her total events, making the finals, and 50% of them she's winning 85.7% of her matches with a 38-6 record. To give you some historical comparison, prime Venus Williams, her 5-year prime, and there were a bunch of 5-year primes for Venus, and that's what makes her special. But if we say 98 to 02 was her 5-year prime, she won 85.7% of her matches. She made the finals in 57% of her tournaments, won 39% of them, averaged about 6 titles and 8 finals per year in 14 events. Those are the numbers Barty's hitting right now. And for the past 4 years, we've been talking about who's going to be the dominant force in women's tennis. Halep had a cup of coffee with it, and Osaka at the hard courts, certainly she's the player to beat. But I think this player, this dominant force, the standard setter we've all been chasing, has been running in front of our eyes. And I think if 2020 would have played out, Ashley Barty would be a prohibitive number 1 player right now on the WTA Tour. Is she that in your mind right now?
I don't know. I mean, honestly, this was a great title run. It was great to see her hold that number 1 seed and truly come up with it. But I mean, for me, and again, maybe it was just a weird year with COVID and all the matches that we didn't get to see. But I mean, do you remember her just folding at the Australian Open against Mukova after winning, just blowing out 6? So for me, there's still so many times where you can still see her blink. Right. And it's like, you don't expect this. Now, I will say, generally speaking, the way her game matches up
6-5
against
serving for the match yesterday, to your point. You did see her blink. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So this still happens. Right. And so for me, it's still leaving the door open for other players to take advantage. It's not that absolute dominant. It's not that peak Serena where it's like, you're not winning this match, because there's always a chance that Pliskova, to her credit, took advantage of the chance, broke back and got into that tiebreak, forced another set. Even after her disastrous start to the first set. So okay, that's good. Right. So to me, Ash Barty, with the way her game is, with the variety, the fact that people hate playing against her slice, she's done really well to win, points on the serve. She has the forehand, all this stuff that's great about Ash Barty. I'm probably not in the same camp as you to view it as this dominant number 1 yet, because I don't know. I'm just not there yet. So I'm looking forward to the next major so we can see it play out. Hopefully Osaka is back around and we see that name in the mix once again. But yeah, Ash Barty, what she's doing is impressive. No doubt about it.
So her prime, she's won 2 slams in, we'll say, 2 seasons. In Venus's 5-year prime, she won 4 slams. If I told you in the next 3 seasons, Barty wins 2 more, I think that's about right.
I wouldn't be shocked.
Yeah. And is it quite, to your point, the level of a prime Serena? No. Is it even the prime Justine Henin, who won 89% of her matches, made finals in about 2/3 of her tournaments, won over 50% of them? No, she's not that degree of number 1. I agree with you. but she's also still only 25 years old.
Yeah.
She had a year of her prime ripped away for her. Perhaps she could be ripping off a 90% sort of season. And again, she was the favorite to win the French Open, Jamie, before she got injured. And so the consistency, the skill set translating across surfaces, she knocks off a lot of boxes. And I think there has been a discussion, why do people talk about her as fondly as they do when the results haven't quite been there yet? It's like they would have been there in 2020. We just didn't see her play because there was this unprecedented global pandemic. And I just think this run was the sort of feather in her cap she needed to be like, you know what, for now, though, I am the one everyone's chasing. And you look at the rankings right now, it's Vardy 1, Osaka 2, and then Sabalenka 3, and she's at the top of a name of a bunch of other people who are on the chase. It feels right. Like that finally feels like the WTA rankings have stabilized a little bit. And that is the pecking orders. It's like Barty for her consistency, Osaka for her peak, and then a list of everyone else led by the most dangerous Aryna Sabalenka.
Yeah. No, I'm with you. And I think it's really good, got to be really good validation for Ash Barty seeing that number one stick and then backing it with the title, because how much conversation was there about, how the rankings held with the pandemic and, Ash Barty, not truly the number one, doesn't deserve to have that, not even playing all these tournaments, blah, blah, blah. You got to feel like that's good for her. She proves against that, right? She says, no, I am number one and here's why. So I'm with you on that point.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. And that was the big point, because now she should probably be the 8th woman, I believe, in history to hit the 100-week threshold, ranked number one in the world. Pretty damn impressive for Ashley Barty. Great run for Karolina Pliskova. And after losing those first 14 points, it was not a good start. And you think to yourself, oh no, like, is this going to be another disastrous loss in a final for Karolina Pliskova, who got 0-0'd earlier this year in the Rome final? And the answer was no. She came back. She fought. Was so impressive. Really fun match. So great to have a crowd engaged in a match again as well. And hopefully we see that in today's Djokovic-Berrettini match. And with that in mind, warm-up coming into an end. First serve about to approach in that match. So we are going to wrap today's show. Jamie, any final thoughts before we get into today's gentlemen's singles final?
Let's see that first ace, Mateo. That's all I got to say.
I love it. I agree with you. Well, with that in mind, again, we are both taking Djokovic to win slam number 20. We will be back with the podcast later on tonight, covering all of today's singles action, how it all went down, talking about the biggest storylines. But for now, I should always give a shout out to super producer Daniel Westoff on the ones and twos behind the scenes, making everything happen here. But for now, for my wonderful co-host, James Foster Mcdonald, our super producer, Daniel Westoff, and all of us here at Cracked Rackets, I am your host, Alex Gruskin. The 2021 Gentlemen's Singles Final, number 1 seed Novak Djokovic taking on number 7 seed Matteo Beretini, about to get underway. We hope you all enjoyed the action. We hope you all enjoyed today's pre-match show, and we will talk to you all later. Thanks, everyone.